Hello, I'm Dane Campbell. Welcome back to Change with Dane. It's the 4th of June, and I'm back to talk a little bit more about change. If you've found this channel, I will tell you that it's dedicated to helping people who want to make changes in their life or find ways to positively deal with changes that are thrust upon us through no fault of our own. And recently I've been talking a little bit about behavioral change and about some considerations that you can look at when you're considering or thinking about your thoughts and if it's possible to change your thoughts. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the process of changing thoughts and examining thoughts. And I actually would like to give you one skill today that you can use to help yourself in this process. A lot of us find that we call ourselves by a lot of different names. And this is a very general thing that all of us do to categorize who we are and some of the roles that we take in life. And some of these are names that are given to us by culture, family, organizations, or other groups that we're a part of. And some of these names are things that we have over time habitually started to call ourselves. So I want to kind of look at these two things and have you sort of ask yourself if these names that you think about or tell yourself or call yourself are useful to you. And if they're not, I want to give you a specific skill that you could use to maybe change or lessen the impact of some of these things that you call yourself. So let's get to specifics. Titles or names that are often given to us might include things like mother or father, an occupation such as teacher, plumber, doctor, maybe even a role that we have taken up in society that is less common, like a caretaker or a runner or something of that sort. All of us have these types of titles or things that we call ourselves. And some of them are very positive, but sometimes they may tend to be on the negative side. A lot of times we give ourselves titles based upon the interactions or based upon our history of interactions that we've had with people that had power or importance to us in our lives. Many times clients will come to me and they have a voice, in their head or a thing that they tell themselves or call themselves because of things that might have happened to them when they were very young, things that might have happened to them in school, in their family, in their church. And so they've started to, or maybe didn't even consciously know that they had adopted the name that was given to them, but they have continued to call themselves that just because it was a habit or a thing that happened or seemed normal or seemed natural. Some of the names that I have heard and helped people walk back from so that they didn't own the name quite so much would be things like dumb or stupid or even angry or a troublemaker, lazy, fat. There's a whole slew of things that people can end up believing about themselves because they are telling themselves, especially in moments of sadness, depression, anxiety, or stress, this name will come to their mind and they will assign themselves that name. Those thoughts, just like the one we talked about last week with someone pulling in front of you in traffic, those thoughts are going to create an effect on you, an emotional effect. They're going to create maybe a physical effect, a psychological effect, and a lot of times we can lessen the impact of that effect if we will slow the process down, figure out exactly what it is we're calling ourselves, and then maybe using this particular tool or this particular skill to lessen the impact of that thought or of that name. So here's the skill. What I would pose to you is that sometimes the thoughts that we tell ourselves are not valid and they are not true. Just because a thought is running through your mind doesn't make it 100% truthful. It's just a habitual thought that you have. So if we take a name like stupid, and you have a tendency, this is an example, you have a tendency to beat yourself up when you make a mistake and call yourself stupid. Oh, I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I'm always stupid. I do stupid things. We can look at the term stupid and we can define the term. Now, this isn't a general definition, right? You're an individual. You have to decide what the term stupid means to you. And once you've defined that term, and it would be helpful if you would get out a piece of paper and a pen and write it down and write down the definition. And then what I would like you to do is look at your definition that you have created for the particular term, and then look at yourself and see if you truly match the definition as you have defined it with who you are at the core, who you are when you act and do certain things, who you are with what intent you have. And it's been my experience that probably 95 to 98% of the time, people at their core seldom meet the definition of the word that they call themselves. Why is this important? This can have a huge impact on your emotion. It can have a huge impact on your behaviors after something happens. And if your habit has been that something negative happens and you call yourself this name, a lot of times there might be a downward spiral and you will do a behavior that's not healthy or it's not bringing happiness. Maybe you continue to tell yourself things that kind of beat yourself up or make moving forward more challenging or more difficult for you. So if you can, again, slow down the thought process, find the term, and then define it, and match yourself up against it, a lot of times you will be able to reduce the duration the intensity and oftentimes the negativity that you might have otherwise reacted with if you're able to challenge the thought, define it, and ask yourself, is it really true? I know that this may seem overly simplistic, but it is extremely powerful. And a lot of times, what I've seen with clients is once they define the term, they then have a challenge in the future calling themselves that negative thing because it doesn't meet their definition. And they then will find a more useful thought that they can replace that with. So if it truly is a mistake that somebody has made, and their pattern has always been to call themselves dumb or stupid because they made a mistake, they then might be able to step away from that and say, oh, I'm an imperfect human and I make mistakes. What can I learn from this mistake? Which will have a much different outcome or drive a person to a much different outcome than believing or accepting a name that doesn't meet or isn't true to your own definitions. Thoughts can be challenging to work with. I talked about this last time. And the names that we call ourselves, they can be a habitual process that's been in your life for a very long time. And remember that we talked about how important it is to practice, continually make an effort, a conscious effort to practice doing things in a different way. So it might take a while for you to recognize when you're doing this, when maybe you're calling yourself a negative name. And it might take a great deal of effort to rest back your thought process and to say, okay, hold on, let me challenge this name by my definition, or let me fix a definition to this name so that I can then judge if that's who I truly am. You can, over time, institute and make this a habit by questioning whether you are challenging the thought, calling yourself something that isn't helpful, and then replacing that with something that could potentially serve you better or be more beneficial. But the real success of this is going to just be the constant or the additional awareness that you give to your thought processes. The being willing to examine them and slow those thought processes down a little bit so that you have time to consider what it is that you may be thinking or saying to yourself, and then consider whether telling yourself something a little bit different is going to bring you greater peace and success in life than what you've been doing in the past. So I hope you'll try this skill. Remember, it's defining the term, and you get to make the definition. And then it's judging that term or that name based upon the definition that you've given as to whether or not you'll continue to own that or not. I hope this has been helpful. If so, or even, if you would like, please subscribe, please like. It's great for me to have an opportunity to share some of this information with people of the world. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, or and I will answer them in the comments or in an upcoming video. And I wish you a happy June and hope to see you back soon on Change with Dane. Take care.